You have to dig through these fake stories that are being produced by the powers that be.
From the top.
Yo, this is too much. Slow down. Peace, God, peace.
From Music City, Nashville to the world. This is not a podcast. This is not a conversation about art. This is an attempt to wake you up. And now that I've got your attention, don't listen to the words. Listen to the silence between the words. You are now entering the Museum of Presence. Get started. Let's do it. As you step into the Museum of Presence, you are transported to the heart of Music City, where the rich cultural legacy of North Nashville shines bright. The historic district has long been a haven for Black women. The North Nashville Arts Coalition has emerged as a beacon of hope, providing BIPOC artists with a space to create, educate, and celebrate. Led by the visionary artist and tattooist Elisheba Mrozik, this nonprofit organization is dedicated to preserving the soul of North Nashville through the power of art. Your work with the North Nashville Arts Coalition is clearly driven by a deep passion for supporting BIPOC artists and preserving the cultural legacy of North Nashville. Yeah. What first inspired you to become such a fierce advocate for your community's artistic and cultural heritage?
You know, it really started with my own journey. And I want to say thank you for having me on and having this conversation and doing this project. And if we rewind back to the beginning of me coming to Nashville, to even before that, when I was in Memphis, I'm originally from Memphis, and my journey just trying to become an artist, just getting my foot in the door into making art a career really is what pushed me into being an advocate. When I first got to Nashville, didn't know anybody, had graduated from Memphis College of Art with a bachelor's of fine arts in computer arts and animation. And I just took a job to get away from Memphis and just start my journey somewhere. So I had my daughter with me, and she was 3 years old. We moved here, and I started trying to get a foothold in the art community here. And that's how I discovered North Nashville, discovered Jefferson Street, and started connecting with some of the artists around. And then in 2010, I discovered tattooing, and it was an amazing art that I didn't know how much it had grown into its own fine art form, with artists doing hyperrealism and all kinds of amazing images on skin. And so when I discovered tattooing, I really was like, wow, why don't I see this on Black people everywhere? I didn't even know they could do this on skin. And that got me interested in that. And the roadblocks I faced in trying to get into the tattoo industry were really big. They were large, and nobody would talk to me. Nobody wanted to let me in the club of tattooing. And so facing those roadblocks and having to fight the fight that I had to fight in order to become the first licensed Black tattooer in Middle Tennessee.
What?
And opening my shop really started me on the train of, well, how can I make this easier for another Black person to be able to get in without having to deal with the gatekeeping and discrimination that was present in the process of getting a license here. And once I got established in tattooing and my shop was doing well, myself and other local North Nashville Black creatives and just community stakeholders came together to make the Jefferson Street Art Crawl. And that was our first big community step in organizing something that was specifically for Black artists to be able to show their work at and get an audience and have a venue and a space without paying exorbitant fees or having to have 50 degrees in order to be able to figure out how to get into that gallery game. And from there, we started the portfolio day, and which was super helpful in getting some local North Nashville artists spaces in Tennessee craft awards and Frist Museum, etc. And it really just opened up the door for pushing Black artists that were here in North Nashville from a only being called on Black History Month to being able to have shows in major places all around the country with them being able to grow their clientele base and let people know how deep the creative legacy in North Nashville runs, and how gentrification was also pushing these artists out and making a space that was once theirs unaccessible to them. And so we formed from these things, the North Nashville Arts Coalition officially formed as a nonprofit in 2018. And it was still just, me and other local artists who were just volunteering to do this work, because we really wanted to see a permanent home for the arts made here that we could be housed in, artists could be housed in, and they could have studio space that it was actually affordable and not what they consider affordable, which is a scam. But anyway, let me tell you. But that was the beginnings of the North Nashville Arts Coalition, where we came from, and the start of our mission, which is to support and uplift Black artists and indigenous people of color artists in North Nashville and preserve that creative legacy of North Nashville.
Oh my God, that's such an inspiring story. Like, that's beautiful, and it's such a powerful work. And I thank you. I thank you for doing that for me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we are really pushing forward on it, and our biggest goal is one. We're just artists. We don't have a bunch of money. We are doing the groundwork, though, so that this is not something that is, oh, here's this thing, let it get taken over by somebody else in the future. We want to make sure we're doing this intentionally so that it will be community-owned, nonprofit ran, so that it's not something that can be co-opted by a corporation in the future.
Last year, Dan Turley offered Pam Brooks 4 baseball cards in exchange for a box of plump,
And delicious shucking and jiving.
She refused.
I want to ask you about the nonprofit thing, because I think that a lot of people are sort of start these organizations and are very intimidated by the nonprofit
World
formulation,
Game.
world of it. Even Museum of Presence. Give me advice, right? Because I just sort of started this thing based off this grant that was funded by Metro Arts. The community has embraced it so much. I thought it was just going to be me, but we've got sort of a bunch of people that just can't stop but screaming, "Hey, how can I help?" And everybody says, "Hey, you should be starting a nonprofit organization." But it sounds like my butt is going to have a pain in it from doing it.
Listen,
Tell me.
honey, nonprofit management is an animal. It is its own beast. And there are people out there who are really good at doing that. I am an artist. I am not a nonprofit manager.
So, but how are you able to sort of overcome
I have
that
just
gap?
been learning. I've literally just been learning. I've been trying to take courses, and I can see that it is not something like the nonprofit management part of it is not something that I am passionate about, but the passion I have for wanting to help my community, and this way is the way that I feel like we can do it without us having to pay for it. Like, my whole goal with this is the people who destroyed it need to pay for it.
Oof.
But we were here. I was able to start my business because Jefferson Street existed as it was. It was an affordable place with buildings that were owned by human beings and not corporations. I was able to come in. I didn't have to have amazing credit. I did not have to have $10,000 in the bank, because all I had $3,000 when I started my shop. I met a woman who owned a spot on Jefferson Street, and she rented to me with no credit check for $950 a month, utilities included. And that was how I was able to start my shop. Nobody else could come out and repeat that story right now, because everybody's renting. Everybody who owns buildings a corporation. They don't care if you have a passion for something and that you think you can do it. They don't care if your credit is bad, but that had nothing to do with you because you lost your job. They don't have the compassion or foresight to support a small business. All they want is money. And so I want those who destroyed the ability for somebody with nothing to be able to come up like I was, to pay for this space for artists of color to be able to stay here.
There is this sort of sense of catching up, right? Because, of course we got to pay rent. We got to pay something. Yeah. But I feel like there's two different kinds of artists that employs in the city, because this is an artist city. Mm-hmm. This is a city literally built on artists, built on black artists in particular, built on black artists that were born on Jefferson Street right here in North Nashville. But they have there is these giant sort of musical empires here.
Yes.
And so, but not everybody is having that same access. My question to you is, how is the North Nashville Arts Coalition specifically helping to bridge that gap?
So, aside from our big vision project, which is the actual building and space, because space is so important to being able to have anything happen.
Yes.
So if I didn't have my tattoo shop, that's where we organized the Jefferson Street Art Crawl. That's where we came together because I had a place and a space that I made available for community usage. And once I was able to afford my own separate studio space, I learned how perfect and amazing it is and how critical to an artist's professional career it is to have a separate studio space to be able to do their work in without other things being involved. Your house, you got your family, your stuff, your other things on your list you need to do. In your studio, it's your workspace. It's the space you come to be creative and do your business and etc.
So you having a space was sort of vital to your success.
Yes. I could not be doing the types of art that I'm doing right now in my house.
And so tell me about this initiative. You sort of mentioned there is the vision to create space. What is it?
The vision is called 37208 Creates, and it is to have a actual multi-use housing facility that will have housing at the top, at the bottom, studio space, education space, gallery space, and retail spaces to support it. Think in Memphis, Crosstown Arts, but it's much more corporate based. This one we want it to be arts focused and owned by the community in a nonprofit format so that it can't be co-opted. For example, I ain't gonna call them out by name, but maybe I should. But there's a certain non-profit or for whatever they are here that gets lots of government grant funding to make housing that's supposed to have, affordability and accessibility for artists and creatives, as well as, lower incomes, right? And so they built some apartment complexes right around here. And they had a bunch of artists come in and do artwork, and they put up banners about how artist housing is amazing, and we have artist housing here for you. And then there are no artists that really live there, and none of the spaces they said were for artist businesses are even full of artists. And now they just said that they switched to market rates so that those rates are no longer even there. So
they put lipstick on a pig
to pretend,
and then
like
they slaughtered the pig and just made the bacon.
Exactly. and they do this a lot. They're not the only ones.
So was this, I'm wondering, did they use this sort of disguise of being an artist to get the opportunity to build here and
to get the money?
So they took the money.
Yes, because you get money, you get tax breaks, you get all kinds of things if you pretend like you're going to offer affordable housing. And I mean, you know how they calculate affordable. It's a 30-mile radius. That includes Franklin and Brentwood. So an average of those rents are going to make anything here expensive for somebody who's working and making ridiculously low money in a lot of the jobs and opportunities that people in these communities have. They're not making this money that they're paying people coming from New York and California.
And so the space that you're building, so tell us, like, what, where are you at in that process? And if you're able to sort of, hey, send a message to Nashville through a new local newspaper about what you need in order to continue that work. If there's anything that the broader sort of community can do to support or help or advocate for, what would that be?
Well, I would love somebody who is really good at nonprofit management to come join our board and be a part of the change that they want to see. Because we're just small. Like I said, we're a small, local, volunteer-based. We don't have an operational budget. We've just started getting grants from Tennessee Arts Commission for programmatic work, like the Ink Link tent that we did at the African Street Fest, which was great. It was a big, giant community tent where we had mural making and art classes for the community to take for free throughout the African Street Fest weekend. And we are
By the way, I was there. It was amazing. It was
awesome.
incredible. I've been, I go to these art events, all the time because, I've got two boys.
Yes.
They're young, 6 and 8. Mm-hmm. And, I'm taking them around to everything that I possibly can. Mm-hmm. I've been to the things at the Frist and the Adventure Science Center. But what I experienced at what you created was top notch. Nothing like it. It doesn't even compare to the institutions that aren't in a tent. So, I definitely think there's a case that you need space, that our communities, our children need you to be providing that space specifically. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I wanted to just sort of get in there and talk about how amazing the work you're doing is, and I'm hoping that you could tell me about a success story. What's your sort of greatest success story that you feel that's come from the organization this far?
So, there is a lot of amazing success stories. Not only myself and the other artists who helped put it on, we've been able to learn and understand more about how the whole art world works. We've been able to show without a doubt that the art that people of color are creating is important, it's needed, and it's yearned for in a society that continuously ignores the Black story and Black voice or others it. And for every other culture, they kind of uplift their stories. They like them. They support them. They'll watch them in films and movies. They will tattoo their designs on their bodies. But when it comes to things that are Black related, it is never that. And doing the Jefferson Street Art Crawl really showed that having Black art visible and out there was necessary, and that people can view it without having to feel that uncomfortableness, but rather start to absorb and understand the messages that are being sent through Black art that need to be put out there and absorbed, and sitting on your wall reminding you every day of why you need to change what you're doing.
Because when I see Black art, I see the moon shots, right? Because I mean, in one way, I see what you're saying, but in some ways, Black art kind of dominates American culture. I mean, hip hop.
Oh, it does. In every way.
And dance, hip hop.
But they always
fashion.
Remove us from it.
They remove the humanity of Black people from the Black art.
And even us, though, if you type in hip hop on one of these stock photo websites, I did it the other day. Type in hip hop. It's going to take a minute before you actually find a picture of a Black person in hip hop.
Oh my God. Wow.
Think about it. And it's small stuff. Like a lot of stuff I point out in a lot of the work that I do, you won't notice it if you're not the affected party. Even we don't notice it sometimes. And it's so nefarious, right? You remember, dude, like you were there. You remember when hip hop was bad. You remember when nobody wanted to be associated with it. And it was, no, this was terrible. I should go to jail.
Yeah.
What is happening?
In fact, I'll tell you a story. The moment I became an artist is I was in the Richmond, Virginia, the Richmond Museum of Art in Virginia. And there is a portrait from Kehinde Wiley on the wall entitled, I always mess up the name, Willem van Hedem, I think that's the name. And he's standing, there's a man standing in this Renaissance portrait, leaning on a sword, and he's dressed in Sean John and Tim's. And for me, that was the coolest thing that you could ever wear. That was like what everybody was trying to like be like. You couldn't afford no Sean John. You couldn't afford those Timbs. At least as clean as his were. But he made him look like royalty. And when I saw that painting, I cried for hours because I thought, I can be that. I can be this big. I could take up this much space. Yes. I could be on this
and
wall.
Be exactly who I am as it. And I'm not having to conform to whatever identity that they have put that I am supposed to be. Yes, I love Kendrick.
Yes. Yes. So, yes. I actually just got back from San Francisco where I saw his new works.
Yes,
and
you got to see the ones.
Yeah, it's incredible.
They're my God, they're so sad. Oh my gosh, they're gigantic.
It's really sad. It's really difficult. But
I know.
But it's actually. But to your point about the absence of Black art from our spaces, there isn't space for that Black sadness. I think that kind of gets to the greater point that you're making about the absence of Black art, because I think that Black art is all over the place, but it's the art that deals with the multidimensional figure of Blackness that is sort of left behind. This I am not just this moonshot artist, rich Jay-Z like Beyonce figure.
I am not this thing that they've put out. We are so nuanced, and there's so many stories of Blackness that have been hidden and covered up, and you have to dig through these fake stories that are being produced by the powers that be, who control the industries that produce the culture that we absorb. So, and I'm thinking like hip hop is a great example, because yes, hip hop started as us and an expression of the pain we were going through, the lives we were living, but as the people who control the music industry got there, they control this narrative. You're not going to put out really good, positive stuff and be number one. You'll have a few that get through like that, but you're going to have some foolishness in there in order to continue to push their narrative. And they use hip-hop against us, because half the people who are out here being hip-hop, they ain't never done any of this stuff they talking about. It's just a persona now, but that persona the negative persona is connected with Blackness. And we can't separate the two anymore.
I have the sense that you are cultivating something different with the North Nashville Arts Coalition.
Yes.
And could you tell me about what you like to cultivate? What is the sort of the essence of the cultivation of what you're cultivating, and and speaking to like why that's important to us, and why that's important to Nashville?
Yeah. So we like to cultivate Black people to be exactly who they are without always deferring to the identities and stereotypes presented to us. For example, Black women. Okay, we have a stereotype that is consistently presented to us through the likes of the Cardi B's and the women of hip hop, where it's you have to look like this, you have to be this attitude, you have to XYZ in order to be beautiful, successful, popular, whatever. And those negative stereotypes and connotations are being absorbed into our kids, who are treating each other terribly and giving people who don't fit those things or act that way a really bad space. So I have a young lady who I mentor who's an amazingly talented artist, and her ability to be great has been stifled by the messages being sent out about what a Black woman can be, right? Because when she's looking at media, when she's looking at social media, nobody that looks like her or if they are looking like her, they're not in a positive role in a lot of ways.
And so you're sort of getting to something very interesting and very crucial that meets at the intersection of the Museum of Presence, right?
Yes.
Which is that, and I'll just say, when I came to your event, the thing that I was really struck by, and I feel that was being cultivated in me, was presence. And aside from the stories and the kinds of art that people are creating, you can create all kinds of art that can be created. But I think that there was this sense of community and this sense of be right here with your kids at this festival. It was, very peaceful. Is this an intentional part of the work that you're doing?
Community is important. Like we cannot do anything alone, okay? And if we only depend on one person to come and save us or come and try to do these things, then we can't get ahead, because we have to have it be collective action. If one person is down for the count, the next people have to be able to step in and support to make sure stuff happens and continues to happen. And that's why building a sustainable organization that, like, if I leave or if something happens to me, that it doesn't just fall apart and then you have to start all over again, is super important and intentional. So I really want, as we're in these beginning stages, to make sure I'm out in the community with people, have the organization out in the community with people, bringing them in and wanting them to be able to put time and passion into what we're doing, so that they can understand not only the importance of art in community, but just the importance and how powerful a community working collectively together can be in making creative and good change in our neighborhood.
Wow, Elisheba, I just want to speak to you. Get one more question. I'd be remiss to leave without asking you about your sort of monumental work. You are changing literally the skin of Black people in Nashville. And so much of what you're saying is about reframing how we see ourselves, how others see us. How does your work as a tattoo artist sort of coincide with that reformation of our image of self?
It's a huge part of it, and one of the things, like, tattooers originally were community cultural connectors. If you look at our ancestral tribal lineages, there were tattooers or shaman or sha women who were there, and they brought people together. They sat with them. They made markings on them that would denote their class or their position in life or where they were going or protection. And people would come together to witness that person getting this piece done or support them in some way. But the role of the tattooer was that community cultural connector. And I would love to bring that back into tattooing, because right now it's a westernized, really transactional, really individualized. But if you look at other cultures, traditions of tattooing as well, Maori and Samoan and Pacific Islander tattooing, Hispanic culture tattooing, it's always very much community based and getting their markers of their culture on them. And as a tattooer, I've talked with thousands of people for hundreds of thousands of hours about their lives, about their stories, their culture, what they feel. I've learned so much about humanity, and I've also learned more about Black women than my own experience could even tell me. And knowing these things and have talked to so many people with so many different stories from so many different places, it really shows me that Black people specifically, we've got to bring tattooing back as a cultural connector, because we need these kinds of rituals and these kinds of complete community things that we do to help us be more together and be more focused on growing ourselves as a people before we're completely scattered into pieces, right? Because that's what's happening now. As we get further away from the actual people who lived during the times of Jim Crow, as we get away from people who actually experience the legal things of suffering, you're going to get to a place where people are already trying to erase that it happened, right? And when you try to erase what actually happened, you get rid of any chance of funding and reparations or healing of these wounds of the past, right? I mean, they denied the Holocaust. There's plenty of, evidence of that happening, but they already are trying to erase it happening. So we as a people have got to be together. We've got to come together on one accord of at least acknowledging that we are a people and that we deserve to be able to have our culture put down. Like everybody else kind of has their stuff in books. They've got papers. They've got it together because they came together to determine what these things are that they do, these rituals they do. You know what I'm talking about? Like Indians, they come together and they do these different cultural festivals. They do all of these things, and they practice them over and over again. We don't have that.
And how are you able to sort of...
Well, with tattooing, one of the things that I'm working on is what I'm calling the Black Tattoo Compendium. Well, so many people come to me and they want other people's symbols on them, right? They want Asian symbols or they want work from other cultures on them. And I'm like, well, we need to make our own. Like, we got Adinkra symbols, but those are still not fully Black Americans. They are Ghanaian. They're West African. And we can pull from our past and what we know that we may come from in Africa and their cultures, but we need to combine it with our journey from here and create new symbols and things that represent us. And one of the things that I'm working on is a personal piece of work, is just creating symbols specifically for Tennessee, specifically for Nashville and Black people here. And I want to put those designs and symbols on people who are from here. And then I want to work with Black artists in other cities and other states and have them create symbols based on their places where they are from that represent their people. And so if you come in with this marking, I'm like, oh, you from the tribe of Kansas City, Sam. You from here. I know that your people came from here. You're Black American, and I know that you came from here. How you doing, brother?
That's beautiful.
That is something that we would have had in our ancestral cultures, something, if we were Igbo people, if you saw these markings, then you would know that we were Igbo people, So I think that those things, creating our own culture as we see fit without the influence of the colonizer or the oppressor being the one that made us have to do it. Right now we have a choice of creating our own. We don't have to use what they gave us or what they allowed us or what we had to do, right? And so my focus is on us creating our culture as we see fit, and then demanding that you accept what we put out as what you call it, as who we are. This is us. You will use these things to represent us. You will not use this.
This is what a beautiful idea. I love the example of the Ndinkra alphabet symbology. By the way, I would love to help you be part of that. I would love to. I think that's what a lovely idea to collect artists together to represent, so that we could represent ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think it starts with just somebody trying to get it started, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really difficult though, because so many people are still very divisive. They think of stuff as a competition. I don't think of anything as a competition anymore, because there's 8 billion people in the world, and there's no competition. I don't need 50 million people to take care of me and my family. I only need a few.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Can we just take a breath together?
Mm-hmm.
Elisheba, it has been really lovely talking with you.
Absolutely.
And just, if there is anything else that you want the people to know or to participate with the North Nashville Arts Coalition, I would love to just give you one last sort of opportunity to share if there's anything that you'd want to sort of invite the people into.
I would love if everyone would just visit northarts.org, sign up on our email list, or if you really want to maybe volunteer or see how you can help grow this initiative to make this stuff happen. What we are wanting are just people who are passionate about real actual change, and who can give time and energy to putting in this work, and you know that it will pay off in the end.
You know, Mr. RJ was one of your volunteers,
yes,
and he's also my kid's teacher.
Yes,
and he's lovely.
Django's going to Nia House next year. I'm so excited!
Wow,
yay! I'm so excited.
Thank you so much, Elisheba. Elisheba is such an important stakeholder in North Nashville. It's such an honor to be able to sit down with her and hear about what she's doing with the North Nashville Arts Coalition. Look out for what this organization is doing. They have really lovely events in Nashville. This session, this newspaper was made possible by a grant from Metro Arts Nashville, a contribution from Studio Bank, and people like Tanya Lewis, Evan Brown, Camila Sander, and me, Shabazz Larkin. This episode was actually edited by Anthony Williams. We talked about community, and in my life when I'm not putting together podcasts and newspapers, I'm actually a part of a meditation and mindfulness app called True Voice. It's a lovely community that's forming together. And if you're on a journey of wellness and want to be on the journey with some other people, go to truevoiceapp.com/Shabazz Larkin to get my personal invitation. Until next time, you are now entering the Museum of Presence.